Have you ever noticed that the people who irritate you most are exactly those who show you who you don't want to be? That the flaws you can't stand in others are precisely those you hide from yourself? Carl Jung discovered something disturbing. The true enemy was never out there. It lives inside you, in the part of yourself you refuse to look at. Most people spend their entire lives fighting ghosts. They believe their problems come from outside, that if they changed jobs, relationships, cities, everything would be solved. But there's a truth no one wants to hear. You can run from the entire world except from yourself. Jung called this the shadow, the rejected part of your personality, everything you repressed, denied and buried in the basement of your consciousness. And here's the cruel paradox. The more you try to ignore this part, the more power you give it. The shadow doesn't disappear when you close your eyes. It just finds other ways to manifest, always at the worst moments, always in the most destructive forms. Think about all those times you reacted disproportionately to something small, that explosion of anger over a silly comment, that irrational jealousy, that anxiety that comes out of nowhere and paralyzes you. It wasn't the external event that caused it. It was your shadow being touched, the unintegrated part of you screaming for attention. Jung realized we live at war with ourselves, and this war projects onto everything around us. We see in others what we can't see in ourselves. We judge ferociously because deep down we're judging ourselves. This is the great illusion, believing we know who we are, when in reality we only know the mask we chose to wear. Civilization taught us to be acceptable people. Since childhood, you learned which parts of yourself could be shown and which needed to be hidden. You learned that anger isn't appropriate, that vulnerability is weakness, that certain desires are shameful. So you began building a persona, a perfect social facade, while pushing everything that didn't fit into the depths of the unconscious. The problem is, this division has a price. Every time you deny a part of yourself, you lose a piece of your wholeness. You become fragmented, living only a fraction of your real existence. Jung studied this for decades and reached a revolutionary conclusion. The human journey isn't about becoming better, it's about becoming whole. It's not about eliminating your dark parts, but integrating them. Because the truth is this, you're not just light, you're also darkness. And pretending you're not only increases that darkness's power over you. How many people do you know who consider themselves good, moral, correct, but who explode in attacks of cruelty when they feel threatened? How many people preach love but practice judgment? This is the shadow in action, the unintentional hypocrisy of those who don't know themselves. But here's the question that really matters. What if the greatest act of courage wasn't defeating your demons, but looking them straight in the face and recognizing them as part of you? Modern society lives obsessed with the idea of positivity. Everyone wants to be happy, enlightened, evolved, but this frantic search for light is often just another form of escape. Jung warned that attempting to live only in the positive pole of existence creates a dangerous imbalance. It's like trying to hold a ball underwater. The more force you use to hold it down, the more violent the explosion when it finally escapes. This explains why apparently balanced people have sudden collapses, why relationships that seem perfect implode overnight, why entire societies that pride themselves on their civility commit unimaginable atrocities. History is full of examples of this. People who repressed their impulses until those impulses consumed them completely. The collective shadow of a nation can manifest in totalitarian movements, in scapegoats, in mass violence. Hitler didn't emerge from a vacuum. He emerged from the repressed shadow of an entire society. This isn't an excuse, it's an explanation. And the explanation matters because what isn't recognized can't be transformed. Jung observed that the worst human atrocities were always committed by people who believed they were doing good, people who couldn't see their own darkness. On the individual level, the same thing happens. You project your shadow onto others and then fight them as if they were external enemies. That person at work you can't stand. They probably carry characteristics of yours that you reject. That type of behavior that makes you furious when you see it in others. It's exactly the behavior you fear having. Jung said that if something in others bothers us deeply, we should look inward, because the answer is always there. It's not about blaming yourself, it's about awakening to the complete reality of who you are. If this idea has already started making sense, if you're already recognizing patterns in your own life, then you're ready to go deeper. And this journey of self-knowledge needs to continue, because what comes next could completely change the way you see your existence. The great trap is that the shadow is intelligent. It doesn't introduce itself saying, "Hello, I'm the part of you you're denying." It disguises itself. It manifests in addictions, in self-sabotage, in destructive relationship patterns you repeat without understanding why. It appears in that inexplicable impulse to do exactly what you know will harm you, in that internal voice that convinces you that you're not capable, don't deserve, can't. The shadow is everything you'd like to be but are afraid of, and also everything you fear being but already are. Jung proposed something radical: shadow integration through conscious confrontation. This means stopping running from your uncomfortable parts and starting to dialogue with them. It means asking difficult questions. Why does this situation bother me so much? What does this say about me? What fear is behind this anger? What pain is feeding this behavior? This process isn't comfortable. In fact, it's probably one of the hardest things a human being can do, because it requires brutal honesty with yourself, without the comforting excuses we usually use to protect ourselves from the truth. But here's the hidden power in this process. Every time you integrate an aspect of your shadow, you recover the energy you were spending to repress it. You become more complete, more authentic, more free, because there's nothing left to hide, nothing to prove, nothing to fear. You know your capacities for good and evil, and that awareness gives you choice. Without awareness, you're just a puppet of your unconscious impulses. With awareness, you become the author of your own life. Jung told the story of a man who repeatedly dreamed of a threatening stranger pursuing him. He ran terrified night after night, until one day, in the dream, he stopped running and turned to face the pursuer. And when he finally looked at the stranger's face, he recognized himself. This is the moment of revelation we all need to have. The monster was always you. And when you finally accept that, the monster stops being a monster and becomes simply a part of you that needs attention, understanding, and integration. The path of individuation, as Jung called it, is the process of becoming who you really are, not who society wants you to be, not who your parents expected you to be, not who you imagine you should be. It's the radical encounter with your totality. And this inevitably passes through descent into personal hell, through confrontation with everything you buried alive. There's no shortcut. You can't go around your shadow. You can only go through it. But there's an even deeper secret that few understand, a truth Jung discovered that can free you from all your internal prisons. The shadow doesn't contain only your negative aspects. It also guards your unrealized potentials, your repressed qualities, your unrecognized power. Many people suppress not just their weaknesses, but also their strengths. They suppress their creativity because they're afraid of failing. They suppress their sensitivity because they think it's vulnerability. They suppress their ambition because they were taught it's selfishness. The shadow contains everything you could be, but chose not to be out of fear, convention, self-punishment. Jung realized that shadow integration isn't just about accepting your failures. It's about rescuing your forgotten gifts. It's about recovering the wild part of you that was over-domesticated, the creative part that was censored, the powerful part that was diminished. When you make peace with your shadow, you don't become a bad person who accepts their badness. You become a complete person who recognizes the entire range of human possibilities within themselves and can then consciously choose how to act. This changes everything. Because suddenly you realize you're not a victim of your own unconscious forces. You're not hostage to your emotional triggers. You're not condemned to repeat the same mistakes forever. There's a way out, and that way out goes through the inside, not the outside. It goes through diving into the depths of yourself, not climbing external mountains. And yes, it's scary. Yes, it will confront you with things you'd prefer never to see. But on the other side of this journey is something all the wealth in the world can't buy: the freedom to be genuinely yourself. The tragedy of modern life is that most people die without ever having lived as themselves. They live as poorly made copies of others, expectations, fighting imaginary enemies out there while ignoring the real battle happening inside. And then, in the end, they look back and realize they spent their entire lives at war with themselves. Jung wanted to spare us this fate. He wanted to show us that true individuation, true human fulfillment, is only possible through total integration of everything we are. So here's the final truth, the revelation that closes the circle. You don't need to become perfect. You need to become whole. And whole means embracing all your contradictions, all your paradoxes, all the glorious mess that is being human. It means stopping judging parts of yourself as good or bad and starting to see them simply as parts of you. It means recognizing that the person capable of great love is also capable of great hatred, that the person capable of courage also knows fear, that the person capable of generosity also has selfishness. This doesn't make you a hypocrite. This makes you human. And when you finally allow yourself to be completely human, something magical happens. You stop projecting your shadow onto others. You stop needing external enemies to feel good about yourself. You develop genuine compassion because you recognize in all other human beings the same struggle you wage. You become more tolerant, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Because you know we all carry light and darkness, and denying it doesn't make us better, it just makes us blind. This is the message Carl Jung spent his life trying to transmit. The greatest danger was never the external villain. It was always the part of you that you refused to know. And the greatest act of courage isn't defeating this internal enemy, but making peace with it, integrating it, transforming it from adversary to ally. Because when you do this, when you finally become whole, you free yourself from the prison you built for yourself. And then, and only then, can you truly begin to live. If this journey touched something in you, if these words resonated with some truth you already felt but couldn't name, then don't let this spark go out. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue together in this exploration of the depths of human consciousness. Because the most important work you'll do in life isn't out there, it's in here. And this journey becomes less lonely when we walk together.